Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. There really is no other. It's only ladies and gentlemen, isn't it? Welcome to the stream. I hope you're enjoying the weather. Well, it's certainly in the United Kingdom. We are having not a heat wave by any means, but it's warm. We had a bit of rain, but it's warm here in the United Kingdom. So that's good enough for us, I think. So yeah, hope you like the pink flamingos. Yeah, took me ages to find them, but yeah, there we go. Pink flamingos. I thought I'd put on today. I haven't had a chance to put up the live streams on YouTube in the YouTube queue, so I'm working on that. A couple of people have asked and they've said, where's all your live streams? They're not in the queue. I will be putting that up very, very shortly. Yeah, so I'm working on that. I've just had a busy few days, so I'll be working on that. Well, right. Okay, so if you wanted to know the live streams I'm doing, I'm mainly doing Wednesdays and Saturdays throughout August. So there's a couple of other days I'm going to add in, but I'm mainly going to do Wednesdays and Saturdays. So if you want to join me, please do. I work on a 7 o'clock, or I put the live streams up at 7 o'clock, 7 till 8 UK time. So it's United Kingdom time. It won't be 7 o'clock where you are, maybe. If it's not, you'd have to work out what time it is. I mean, for some people it's going to be in the afternoon, some people in the morning, some people late at night. You can always watch the streams afterwards, and I am getting a lot of people watching afterwards, so really do appreciate that as well. So thanks for joining me. Before I get into the latest news across the world on the subject of gender ideology and trans ideology, I'm going to answer some questions, or certainly a couple of questions that people have asked. So somebody from somewhere in the world, I don't want to give their name, and they didn't tell me whereabouts they were in the world, so I'm not going to mention where in the world they are, because I don't know. But they asked me a simple question, that if somebody is watching this live stream, let's say 100 years in the future, so what does that make it? That makes it 2122. I mean, I'll be in heaven by then, but I'm pretty sure with that I'll be 100 years from now, I'm sure that I'll be gone. But if scientists did dig my body up, they would be able to find out that I was male and that every cell in my body is male. Yeah, just sort of throw that one in, even though that the trans activists of today are trying to stop archaeologists and all the people that dig up the bodies. They're trying to stop them labeling male or female, which is very ignorant and it's very silly, but they are doing that. Yeah, so okay, well, what they want to know is, how would you explain to them why you started live streaming on the subject of gender ideology? And when I say they're watching this live stream, they wouldn't be watching it live. They would be watching a copy of it in 100 years' time. And I wanted to answer this question because I think it's quite an interesting, it'd probably explain why I'm doing what I do. And it would also probably explain, why I do it and what's happened. So it is an unusual question, I know, but I like unusual questions, so I thought I would answer it. So if you're watching this clip in 2122 or around that time, let's say, or even in 50 years or even 30 years or even in 200 years or whenever you're watching it, and this clip is around, I'd like to explain what's happened in simple terms. So I'm going to get rid of all the jargon. I'm going to get rid of all the technical stuff. I just wanted to explain what had happened, why I'm live streaming, why we've got activists of today doing all what they're doing, campaigning and kicking off and fighting for rights. This will probably explain it a little bit. So I'm pretty sure that, as my research suggests, that some extremely rich people. So how it started. This is how it started. So as my research suggests, that some extremely rich people and some quite important people who've got important positions in our society, unfortunately, have started what we're labeling as gender ideology, trans ideology, or an ideology about gender. And it's unfortunate unfortunately for us all, it has manifested into our society in quite a bad way, actually. And as I read on, so much so, really, that this ideology, we've been made to believe that men, biologically born men, biologically born males, are women if they say they are, and women, biologically born females, are men if they say they are. If they think they're a different gender, we're being made to believe that. And it's causing all kinds of problems. Now, I've got to point out that as an adult, I know who's male and I know who's female, I know who's man and I know who's a woman. But the people who are being confused about this is a certain group of people, and that's called children. Children are the ones that really are going to be the ones, or are the ones that are suffering the most, because they are really being fed crap at schools. They're being indoctrinated, as we'll go on into a minute. But yeah, but even us, even me, I mean, I can get deplatformed for misgendering somebody who was born a different gender. I can potentially have police knocking on my door. So there's it's quite escalated into a big problem. So we're really not allowed to challenge this, or we're not supposed to. As I say, I can be deplatformed, I can have the police knocking on my door, I can be prosecuted. So they're really pushing this. It's really been pushed. So if we're also being called names like, transphobic, we've been called bigots and all kinds of, I mean, I've been called all sorts. I don't think I've been called as many names in my entire life. I mean, it's so immature, but these people, there's a group of people to call trans activists, which are, wow, they've really gone to town on us. And, women are being attacked online, even men like me, as I say, even I'm being attacked. People have been hounded out of their jobs, their livelihoods. People are even receiving visits from the police, which is quite concerning. And many of these trans activists are not actually trans or LGBT people. Or LGBT people. It's very strange that these are actually just ordinary heterosexual people that are fighting for this. So this ideology has spread to our governments. It's throughout the Western world, in our government departments, our schools, which is sad, our colleges, our universities, our sports. And after the last tweet by Stonewall last week, they'll probably hit nurseries next for the little ones in nappies, 2-year-olds, to be indoctrinated with trans ideology if we don't stop them. So the problems which are now caused, one of the things that really goes through me, it really, really has upset me, is that our little girls are losing their female toilets in schools to gender neutral toilets. And it's basically they're losing the toilets to gender neutral toilets, but they're also losing female toilets, full stop. So our biologically born boys, okay, who simply say that, oh, they're a girl now, and they use the female toilets. Little girls are not really allowed to challenge that, because if they do, they're bigots, they're transphobic, something's wrong with them, and this is a real horrible thing that they're doing to our little girls. And I can't believe that we've actually done it, but we are. And a lot there is a few boys that are using girls' toilets, or biologically born males, I think I'm supposed to call it, that are using the girls' toilets. Now, bearing in mind that in the United Kingdom, you can't change genders like this legally until you're 18. Yeah, this is happening in schools to children. They're being allowed. They're allowing them to change genders. It's very, very odd, but oh well, that's it. So that's that. It really is it. It's what they do. And so it's not standing. It doesn't stand. It's a case of, no, these biologically born males, okay, boys who say that they're girls, can use the spaces. So what's happening is that, and it's quite documented quite documented what's happening is our little girls are refusing to go to the toilet at school, because why would they want to go to a toilet when they've got boys in, and all kinds of disgusting things are happening. I mean, one mum has actually, she went public saying that the girl, you know, who was in one of these gender neutral toilets, as it was, a boy exposed himself to her, you know, and this is deeply concerning. I mean, you know, girls have their own toilets for reasons, and you know, to do this, it's quite appalling. It's quite horrible. So yeah, you know, it's, as like I say, it's causing all kinds of problems, and it's all been ignored in favour of boys or biologically born males. They're getting the favoritism. You know, it does work vice versa, but it's not the same as what's happening to our little girls. That's the thing. That's the thing that makes me sick the most. What we're doing to our little girls. So um, I was the second, you know, going off that, we got going to something else. Our sports are being invaded by biologically born males saying or claiming that they identify as a woman. This in itself is causing problems because, you know, for starters, it's not a level playing field because, as we all know, males, however they identify, um, are they've got an unfair advantage over women. You know, we all know that. I mean, I know that now. You'll know that in 100 years' time. Everybody knows. Scientists know that. Biologists know that. Sports people know that. We all know that. We all know this is the case. So, secondly, these biologically born males who now identify as women and they've still got intact genitalia. They've still got male genitalia. You know, and they are demanding and succeeding in these demands in using the changing rooms and the shower rooms with women. You know, how did this happen? They have a male body with male genitalia, and they're being allowed to do this. And this has all been documented now. It's all in the press that people are outraged about what these people are allowed to do. Because actually, these people are exposing themselves in the women's changing room. They're exposing themselves in the toilet and they're being allowed to do it. It's very, very concerning. So, female toilets are being eradicated in favour of either gender neutral toilets for everybody or a system where you have male toilets and toilets for everyone else. You know, there's no female toilets. Although, I mean, this is what they're trying to do. There's plenty of female toilets that are around at the moment, but you know, for how long we don't know, because it's going to be changed to gender neutral toilets, or they're just doing away with the female toilets. You know, it's really, really bad. So another example is that biologically born males who say they are women, you know, want access to changing rooms, women's showering, and although you may think this is sick, it is being allowed to happen. I know I just mentioned that sort of, you know, what I've just said, but this has been allowed to happen, and they are getting access to this. And the question that gender activists like me, gender critical activists like me, are saying is, you know, anybody can say that. So that's the problem. Anybody can say that they're a woman. I feel like a woman, and they're going to be transferred into prisons. Now, in Scotland, for example, half the transgender population are sex offenders, and you know what's going to happen, and it is happening. You know, in America, for instance, sexual assaults are happening. People are being impregnated. It's unbelievable what we're having to put up with. I don't know how this has been allowed to happen, but we do, because people in power and very rich people have pushed a gender ideology, which they thought that nobody would complain about. They thought they'd get through. Thankfully, there are activists like me that are stopping it. And we are going to fight, and I'll probably have to fight for the rest of my life now to stop this nonsense, which is, you know, sick. It's a sick thing that's happening. I simply object, and I'm campaigning. So that's the thing. I simply object. I don't agree to it, and I'm campaigning because I think what's happening is absolutely disgusting. That's it. So I object, and I'm going to sit here. I've been an activist all my life, and I object. I think this is nonsense what's happening. I think it's absolutely disgusting. So I am going to do something about it, and I'm going to join all the rest of the activists, and we are going to fight against it. But because of me campaigning for, and I'm campaigning really not against transgender people, not against trans. I'm campaigning for women's rights. I'm campaigning for little girls' rights, and they've got rights. I'm campaigning about child safeguarding. and LGB rights, which is exactly what I'm doing. You know, I'm not campaigning against trans people. I'm campaigning for these people because these people have rights, you know. And despite the fact I'm at continual risk of being deplatformed on social media and now a financial service as people are being kicked out of some services that provide their funding. And it's happening. It's happening all the time. I mean, you know, Twitter, to which my account was locked for 6 months. You know, and I did absolutely nothing wrong. All I did was generate an article which generated a photograph. I put up an article, sorry, that generated a photograph, and I got a lock. My account was locked because they said that I'm not allowed to put photographs up without permission. But they changed that rule afterwards, so they've set me up. So it's wrong what they've done. It's wrong. They've just done that to put a violation on my account. And we know why, because once you get three or four violations, you lose your account. So look, and funnily enough, you know, women, lesbians, gay men, and well, everybody who dare to question or argue about gender ideology or freedom of speech or other things, and Twitter disagrees, are getting their account locked, suspended, and in quite a lot of cases now permanently banned. Twitter have a lot of people off Twitter permanently. Off their platform permanently, should I have said. So, you know, if, for example, we question a woman impersonating a gay man, now, you know, you might think this is ridiculous, that, well, why are women impersonating gay men? They are. You know, this is what's happening in our society. You know, we can actually get into some trouble for this. You know, this is it. A biologically born female who had a breast amputated won Mr. Gay UK. And despite outrage, you know, it's still up in the air. It's still there. You know, I wonder if Mr. Gay UK in the United Kingdom, I wonder if Mr. Gay UK will be won by another biological woman with amputated breasts. Let's see. You'll find out, because I'm sure that I'll be streaming. It's like I say, that if I did get cut off any platforms, I would move platforms. There's plenty of platforms setting up, because there's a lot of people concerned about what's happening to freedom of speech. There's a lot of people concerned. Well, there's a lot of people being banned, so they've nowhere else to go. So they are, you know, finding refuge on platforms like GETTR. We've got True Social, we've got Minds, we've got sort of platforms like that. So we've got all these platforms. So yeah, you know, I'll be there. I'll be out there somewhere. My streams are being cross platformed with other sites, just in case as somebody did say to me, you might get your channel nuked. If my channel gets nuked, I'll still carry on streaming. These videos are still available on other platforms, so I'm not too worried. But there's no reason why I should. I mean, I'm not a horrible person. I'm just, you know, fighting for rights as an activist and just telling the truth. I mean, this shouldn't have happened to people. It shouldn't be inflicted on people. But, you know, we never know. So, but anyway, these streams are available in other places. So, as a nice, civilized, and decent young man, I'm not that young nowadays, but I will identify as being young, if you like. I cannot and will not stay silent, because all this is wrong, and we all know it's wrong. We all know boys using girls' toilets is wrong. We all know that men, you know, biologically born males, you know, identifying as women and playing women's sports and taking their medals, we know it's not right. So I will continue to a fight, and hopefully that will explain to people looking at my clips in 21, 22, or around that area, even in 30 years or 50 years, or even in 500 years time, if you manage to come across these clips and beyond, you know, that'll explain it. So yeah, I mean, you know, because of the topic, I mean, I am at risk of being deplatformed. So these streams, I mean, I've mentioned they're being cross-platformed. So hopefully they may survive. Maybe not, I don't know, but hopefully they may survive. So there we go. Hey, Amy, I didn't think you were going to come today, actually, but hey, how are you? What a brilliant day, you know, what a brilliant day. It's warm. I know we had a bit of rain earlier on, but it's warm. But thank you for joining, Amy. I really appreciate you coming, and don't worry about you being late. It's not a problem at all. It's hope you like the pink flamingos as well. Yeah. I've got some pink flamingos. I wasn't able to put the live streams in my in the stream queue, but I'm going to try and get some up. You got to just had a food delivered. Oh right, well that's it. I mean, if you got food, I mean, yeah, that's it. I had some more pasta today as well. I had some delicious pasta with red pepper, green. Sorry, not red pepper, a red onion, a green pepper, and I stuck some tomatoes and cucumber in to make it a bit salady, and it was absolutely delicious. I really enjoyed it again. So I'm really getting into this pasta. Actually, I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, brilliant, fantastic. Right, okay. Well, thanks for joining me. That's really appreciated. Right, so another question that somebody has asked me is, do you think the tide is turning on Turf Island? Because we are still struggling with with this ideology in the United States of America. So yeah, I do think the tide is turning. I think the tide is turning, but I think we've got a long way to go. I think there's a long way to go. That we really have a lot of work to do. But yeah, the tide is definitely turning, especially on Turf Island. You know, there's more people in America who need to stand up and shout up, really. You know, but I am seeing more and more people in America speaking out, and that's really good. I'm really pleased. You know, that people are speaking out in America. Women's sport and the Thomas affair has helped greatly to highlight the trans ideology problem in America. I don't think Thomas really realized that, you know, he's really piqued a lot of people. Did I just say I'm not allowed to do that, am I? Thomas transitioned into a woman, and he was a biological man, called Will Thomas, and then he decided to transition into a woman, and he was Leah, and now he's Leah Thomas. I'm not allowed to misgender people on YouTube apparently, so I've got to point, you know, I've got to point out, actually give out the facts. But again, I do believe that Thomas has piqued so many people in America, and then, you know, I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely fantastic that so many people have been are speaking out. The British in Europe will influence America. I mean, things are happening in Europe as well. I mean, we've got Sweden, we've got Denmark, you know, and we've got people speaking out in Europe. I think the Britain and Europe will definitely influence America as well. I'm sure of this. America's biggest problem right now is Pensioner Biden, who is the world's most dangerous trans activist. He really is. You know, he is. You know, I mean, he is. That's it. I think that's the biggest problem in America. So, you know, while you've got Pensioner Biden in as the president, you know, you've got a problem. And it's not going to go away in a hurry. He's not going to. I mean, not like our government. I mean, we've got great Liz Truss that could be potentially prime minister. We've got Richie, who could be a potential next prime minister. They're not for this gender ideology, and neither should Biden be. But Biden is definitely, you know, into this ideology quite a lot, quite bad, really. So yeah, so you know, the American people really need to get rid of Biden if you want to change. If you want to change, you know, the way that gender ideology is. If you want to change gender ideology, you know, Biden's one to get rid of. You know, so the American people need to get rid of him. From what I've seen Biden's done, I don't think he's a good president. I think he's probably the worst president that the United States has ever had, ever. You know, he's certainly not a very clever president at all. But there we go. Okay, but yeah, the tide is definitely starting to turn, which is the question you asked. And these trans activists, they know the days are outnumbered now. They know that. But there's still a long way to go. You know, they know they're on a losing battle. They know they're on the wrong side of history. But you know, they things are changing, and thankfully in the UK we don't have idiot Starmer running our beautiful country. I mean, I think if he got in, we'd have big problems, but I'm very confident that Starmer will never get in. And with the way that the Labour Party have behaved, well, you know, for certain the last few years, I think it's unlikely we'll have a Labour government. So I think, you know, we will certainly be able to deal with trans ideology in the United Kingdom. Right, so moving on, we've had some great news in the UK over the past couple of weeks. It's been a good couple of weeks in the UK. You know, it's been quite exciting because a lot of things have gone in our favour. Um, um, we've got the Tavistock. I'm calling it the House of Horrors. I don't know whether I'm allowed to call it that on YouTube, but the Tavistock House of Horrors has been shut down as it's unsafe for children. Now, this is good news for gender critical people like me because you know we've been campaigning all along to say that you know the Tavistock are giving out experimental drugs to youngsters. You know, this is not like adults. You know, it's not like adults are consenting. This is like children have been given experimental puberty blockers, and some of them have been cut. Well, a lot of them have been, you know, put on a conveyor belt. So it starts with puberty blockers, it goes on to hormones after they're 16, and after they're 16, they're also going into surgery. Some of these people have gone into surgery at 16, 17, 18 years old, and had the breasts amputated. They've had things cut out of them. So when I call it a house of horrors, I mean, surely I'm allowed to say that because, you know, it has been shut down. It is unsafe for children. What the Tavistock have been doing is it's been rightfully humiliated in the press and across the internet. I mean, everybody, you know, knows what they've done now. I mean, yeah. So, so Amy's pointed out it's closing spring next year, but will be replaced by a number of clinics still run by NHS. So this still isn't good. Yeah, I am aware about that. I'm aware it's, you know, they're shutting it down. It's going to close in spring. I am aware that there are some other clinics that are setting up. The good thing that came out of this is the CAS report said that that the Tavistock in London it was unsafe for children. I'm hoping, and I think we're all hoping, that Liz Truss, the government, and even the NHS are going to realise what they've done with the Tavistock. It's not over. I know it's not over. It's sad, really. I mean, you know, they've got to open clinics for confused people, you know, who are confused about the gender, but it's what they're going to do. But what the NHS have got to realise now, and what Tavistock and all these mini clinics are realising is people are, it's been exposed, and it's not just been exposed. It's all over the press. You've got campaigners. You know, they are being watched all the time. You know, but you're right. It's not good. We're going to have to watch them. We're going to have to find out what they're going to do. And you know, there is talks about banning puberty blockers in the United Kingdom for kids. I mean, all this is coming into it. Let's see what happens. But you're right. It's not all. It's not going to be. It's not going to be. You know, it's not going to be perfect. You know what's happening, but we'll see. But at least the Tavistock have been rightfully humiliated by that CAS report and in the press. So a lot of people across the UK, well, the world now, know that, you know. So let's have a look. So the NHS are currently busy removing terms like woman from their services and pushing pronouns on staff. So I think this is worse than one clinic. You could be right, Amy. To be honest, you could be right. And I know that Rishi has said that he would stop this wokeness, but you know, you're right. So there's a big fight. You know, it's not over. You know, yeah. And the thing is, with it being more than one clinic, it's going to be very difficult to monitor. In Tavistock, we could see everything that was going on in one clinic. With it being more than one clinic, you know, if there's no whistleblowers in one clinic and there is in another, it's not good. But as like I say, we've got a long fight ahead of us. We're not going to sort this out, you know, in a few months. It's going to be a few years, but we will do. Yeah, but there we go. Alison Bailey, on another subject, is set to receive thousands of pounds compensation from Garden Court Chambers. This is also really big, brilliant news, and that case will have a big impact. it will have a big impact on what's on Stonewall. Actually, it'll have a big impact on Stonewall. I'm going to read it. I've got something to say about them in a short while, but yeah. Um, we'll move on from that. So there is calls to scrap woke positions in our civil service. I know Liz has always wanted to do that, but I think we're moving on. I think we're progressing. I know it's small progress, but if we do stop woke progress, brilliant. And then Amy says, "Well done to England's team for winning the football. Wasn't that fantastic? It's totally women, all biologically adult human females on both sides, Germany and England. We won. That is so good. It's very, very pleasing. Yes, it was brilliant. I was really, really excited to see that. That was brilliant. Yeah, so fantastic. There is also calls for public sector bodies in the United Kingdom to stop giving Stonewall taxpayers money. I'm very concerned as to why Stonewall are still receiving millions of pounds worth of taxpayers' money. It's got to be stopped. We've got to stop it. So hopefully, I know there's a bit of a delay in the vote. We were supposed to be receiving our ballot papers as Conservative members as to what. I know there's a bit of a delay at that at the moment, but we really do need to get this vote in, to get Liz or Rishi in to start changing these woke positions. I just go on to Amy's comment again. A few lesbians in England's team, at least 4. Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so that's good for lesbians and good for women. Yeah, that's brilliant. And no male lesbians. They were all actual lesbians, no made up lesbians, fake lesbians or false lesbians or impersonating lesbians. Brilliant. Good. And the next one, of course, is that the Rugby Football Union has stopped biologically born males competing in female rugby. That's another good bonus in the United Kingdom. I'm pretty sure that will have a knock-on effect on other sports bodies and other sports bodies in the rest of the world. So that's particularly good as well. So with all this, I'm going to go on to another one actually with regard to the Rugby Football Union. I'd like to say a good riddance to volunteers Matthew Mason Hames and Darren Keating, and I hope I pronounced that wrong, who both got the arse on and resigned from Rugby Football Union after the RFU rightfully banned biologically born males from female-only full contact rugby. There we go. Because men, however they identify, really don't belong in women's sports, particularly rugby. But actually, any women's sports, if it's female sports, and you're a man, can you just stay out, please? Can you be polite and stay out, whether the sporting body lets you in or not? But thankfully, sporting bodies are starting to crack down on it. But like I say, with everything in the gender critical, we've got to we've a long way to go, and there's a big fight. I think record numbers across the world as well are now calling gender ideology out for what it is. That we're all speaking out about this trans ideology and what's happening, and the numbers rising every day. More and more people from all walks of life are coming out to rightfully condemn this ideology, which is pretty good. I'm seeing that. I mean, when we started, a couple of minutes ago, a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, there weren't as many people, but more and more people are speaking out. So Amy says we could say they cancel themselves. Yeah. Yes, that's it. Yeah. Right. So more and more detransitioners are also coming out, revealing their horrific stories, showing how dangerous this ideology is. This is positive, and I encourage more to speak out to stop other people being harmed in the way that you were. And I'm very sorry that you were harmed. I'm very sorry that people like me weren't speaking out earlier enough. I didn't know this was going. I didn't know it was this bad. Otherwise, I'd have been speaking out a long time ago. But I didn't. No, I had no idea. And I'm also noticing that more and more newspapers and magazine outlets are publishing stories highlighting the dangers of gender ideology and exposing it for what it is, and more will come. There is a lot more press, a lot more articles. I'm just reading articles every day, but this is actually expanding. There's more and more magazines out there and newspapers and media sites. There's more and more people exposing it for what it is. More groups are setting up. I was very interested to see that the Women's Network are setting up, and they're setting a network all over this country. They're setting America, and it's local groups that they're setting up in this country. I think they're trying to do it in America as well, but there's more and more setting up, and they're really establishing. So we are moving forward on the GC side of it, and we are going to try, you know, as a level best to stop gender ideology from you know, or kicking it out of our schools, kicking it out of our government, but you know, I think the important thing is let's get on with the news of yeah. I think the more important thing is to the more is to create more groups, create just basically speak out. You know, join these groups, get just you know, we need to speak out on what's happening. We need more whistleblowers. We need people to call out for what it is. And the more people that support us, the more people that speak out, the more chance you've got of people in positions that will then be allowed to speak out. And I think that's important. So if you're out there, please speak out. If you can't speak out, support the people who are speaking out, and you know, complain to your government and teaching authorities and education and prison authorities. Stop this nonsense before it gets any worse. I mean, it can't get any worse actually, but you say that and it does. But stop it. You know, stop it. You know, and the way to do that is to speak out and complain. And the more you speak out, the more you complain, it will give the option for other people in power. They won't feel as scared and they'll come out. If I've said that right. Okay. So we've got the we've got a revolt now against the drag story hour. This is continuing. Parents surely have the right to challenge the indoctrination of their kids. Protests are happening outside libraries, and rightfully so. My advice: don't take your children to drag queen story hour. This is happening. It's happening in America, but it's happening all over the UK now. They brought this to the UK. Many professional drag queens, female impersonators, and drag shows will tell you these are adult entertainments only. These are, you know, these are sexualized adult entertainers that are entertaining your children. No, this is not acceptable. Drag queen Kitty Demore has a message for parents that take their children to drag shows and, you know, drag queen story hours. She says, stop it. Or he says, stop it. You know, it's because, you know, it's an act that he's doing. And I think I'm allowed to call him a he because he is a he, and he only dresses up as a woman, as a female impersonator. And he said, stop it. You know, and I say stop it too. Don't take your children to these shows, these sexualized shows. Children deserve better. So yeah, I mean, you know, so why? But parents, why would you take your children to a drag queen story hour to watch a sexualized adult entertainer storytelling? Please let me know why would you do that. You know, don't do that to your children. But let me know if you're taking them. Let me know why, because I want to know. In other news, we've got Stonewall again. There's a new push to stop Stonewall getting taxpayers' cash. I think I mentioned that earlier. This comes after a legal battle in the Alison Bailey versus Garden Court chambers. As we know, Alison's set to get thousands of pounds in compensation after winning this legal battle, and concerns about Stonewall are ever growing. What I'd like to know is why a pressure group like Stonewall receiving millions of pounds in taxpayers' cash in the first place. Under no circumstances should this disgusting, controversial embarrassment be receiving money from the public purse. So let's stop it. I'm just going to have a drink. Oh, yep. We shouldn't be funding Stonewall. We shouldn't be propping Stonewall up. So I'm asking, you know, the government, why? I mean, I've asked the government, I've wrote to the government, why are you supporting Stonewall? Why are you paying a pressure group like this embarrassment, Stonewall? You know, why are you giving this money? Stop. you know, we need to stop this, and hopefully, as soon as we get the new prime minister in, hopefully we'll do that. And with the new contenders battling it out to become the leader of the Conservative Party and the next Prime Minister, both, particularly Liz, has expressed that government departments should withdraw from Stonewall's controversial champion schemes. I think whichever one got in, whether it be Liz, whether it would be Rishi, I think they're certainly going to do. I think there's something in the air. I can feel something in the air that they're going to have to do something about Stonewall. You know, we can't go on like this. I feel changes are in the air. You don't have to be psychic to know that more organisations and government departments will drop Stonewall in the future. There have been many meetings at boardroom level discussing exactly this. We know people are talking about it. We know companies don't know what to do. But my advice is to drop Stonewall. It's simple. You'll have to eventually, because, you know, more people are, all the government departments are going to be out eventually. That's it. So moving on, after Tavistock and will Stonewall or Mermaids be next? There are calls for this. A public inquiry perhaps in both these organisations is necessary and is much called for. We need a public inquiry into Stonewall, why they get receiving all the taxpayers, and Mermaids as well. That's it. So I said it. You know, we need a public inquiry into both these organisations to find out what's going on, why they're getting this money, and what has really been going on in Mermaids. I mean, you know, are they just a helpline that they perceive or want us to believe? Right, because they definitely did have influence, according to what I'm reading, in Tavistock, and they'll probably have influences in the other two, in the other clinics that are going to open. You know, shouldn't really have influence, an organisation like that. But that's it. Right, I have now discovered another detransitioner who has come out publicly about her ordeal. It's another vulnerable woman. She says that she was allowed to transition after just this is in the United Kingdom, after just 2 hours of counselling, and underwent a double mastectomy and hormone therapy. Now she's angry and tells of her regret. How has this been allowed to happen to a vulnerable woman who would have been in a bad place at the time? You know, this is the NHS. 2 hours? You know? I mean, it's, you know, I don't get it. I just don't get how this has been allowed to happen on a vulnerable woman who clearly was in a bad place at the time. They've just cut her up. I really think that something needs to be done about this. It's a real concern. And Kira Bell has spoken out publicly again. You know, this brave young woman has revealed her story after a damning report which condemns and closes the Tavistock clinic for good, and we know that that's closing next spring. Kira Bell says what they did was despicable, and she reiterates that she should never have changed genders at 16. I mean, this is heartbreaking to see that people at 16 years old have been, when they're in a bad place as well, have been allowed to change genders at just 16 years old. It's really deeply concerning, and this shouldn't be allowed. We need this to be stopped. So it's great that there were more people speaking out. Sadly, we're going to see more and more of these detransitioners, you know, hopefully speak in public as well about what's happened to them at the hands of the NHS or all the health services around the world. They're all out there, and there's more and more going to be speaking out, and more people. You know, it's really heartbreaking for me to see, really, what's going on. Right, okay, so it is a medical scandal, really, that should never have been allowed to happen. They picked on vulnerable people, and we all know it's the vulnerable people, the people in bad places, the mentally ill, you know, the autistic. They've really picked on the vulnerable people. But we are still in this medical scandal, so please do speak out. You know, particularly if you're a detransitioner, you know, your story will help other people. It might not help you, but it will help other people to stop this nonsense that's happening. Moving on, something's cropped up from the BBC. I mean, isn't it time we defunded the BBC? Why should the license payer continue to pay for this nonsense that we're receiving? You know, I just think it's, you know, who needs the BBC? We don't, you know, and if they can't support themselves, then let them go. We don't want them. But anyway, the BBC is facing a backlash for allowing 50-50 male and female target quotas to be filled by transgender guests. I'm presuming that also means non-binary as well, you know, or anybody who is not given their birth sex of male or female. So this is, in other words, what's happening really is data's being made up, you know, and who are the people who are losing out of this? It's women. Women are the people that are losing out, you know. So if you're a woman, you should be angry. So the BBC presenter, his name is Ross Atkins. He's now at the centre of this trans row. It's the BBC have the corporation's 50-50 project, and it's an initiative he founded that he actually founded in 2017 that aims to increase the numbers of women on air and on screen. And Amy says, I'm extremely angry about all of that. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So you know, it's. I mean, something happened in. So it basically means that women, you know what I mean, are just not filling their quotas, and it could be taken over by men. I mean, you know, we could have. I wanted to give an example of something somewhere in, it was in South America. I don't think it was Brazil, but it might have been Brazil, where they formed some kind of a political party, was it right? And the law states that half of them have to be women in that particular thing. So all they did is they had half men and half men who identified as women, and that kind of reminded me that I've tried to Google it and find the details of it. I couldn't do it. It is on my GETTR, but it's well way down. This is how silly it's getting, that, you know, women are losing out, and, you know, it's silly. The data's just rubbish. The data's crap. So it really is time, if you're a woman, to speak out, because you're the people who are losing out mainly. I mean, you know, I can imagine now that these quotas, it's more men that are going in there, and that's it. You know, they're not balancing out. There's not these trans men coming in saying, "Oh, I'm a man," and not these trans women. It's not. It's the women that are losing out, and I'll guarantee it's, you know, there's more men going in there than women now, and all that. You know, the corporation's 50-50 project is just, that were founded in 2017, has just gone to waste. It's just silly. There's got to be a better way of doing this, and that's it. Kemi Badenoch, she's come out publicly saying that civil servants prevented me from learning the truth at the Tavistock. These civil servants, I mean, I think it would have been difficult for her to come out of that, you know, to speak out at that time, because I think everyone would have hounded her. But these civil servants that are doing this, need to be removed. You know what I mean? They need to be removed from the positions. These are woke people that are damaging. You know, we've seen what's happened in the Tavistock, and I'm calling it the House of Horrors. I hope I'm allowed to call it that. I mean, you know, and we've got people that are trying to stop this information from being discussed. You know, children are going on puberty blockers, and I've read after one session, you know, and then they're being fast tracked, you know, all the way from puberty blockers. Then they go on the hormones, cross sex hormones, and then after 16, you know, they rush through surgery, which is what's happening. And you know, we've got civil servants that are trying to stop Kemi Badenoch from finding this information. This is terrible. You know, it's horrible. You know, it's. I mean, Kemi Badenoch has said it's only a minority of woke civil servants. Yeah, I mean, we can gather this, but it's these tiny minorities that need to, if they're doing this, they need to be removed from the positions. I mean, surely they need investigating for hiding this information. You know, can I ask for that they be removed from investigated at the very least, and removed from their positions if they're going to do things like this? This is interfering, it's manipulation, and it's obstructing. You know, it's you know, and Kemi did say that she was happy to see the Tavistock shut down. Again, we know that they've opened some more, but we'll have to just play it by ear and see what happens there. Yeah. So Kemi also said that what happened at the Tavistock was a serious child welfare failure where children were being given experimental treatment that retarded their development. It really is a big medical scandal that people are still trying to cover up. The BBC are not mentioning it. I mean, Graham Line, I won't say that on YouTube, but what Graham Linehan said, I better not say that on YouTube, but they're not, the BBC are not covering this. They're not covering this story very well. As far as I know, I haven't seen it on the BBC, and that's maybe they did actually. Maybe they did put an article. I don't think they did actually. In the scandal, I mean, I don't mean an article where they've mentioned it's closed. I mean, they didn't tell the truth. They didn't mention it closed because of what happened in the Tavistock. So they do. Are the BBC covering up the Tavistock too? I'll put it that way, and that's the better way of doing it. Moving on, schools have been left to write their own transgender rules behind parents' back, no doubt. Apparently, the Department of Education are working on national guidelines for head teachers on transgender pupils. But Whitehall have said that this won't be ready until autumn 2023 term. It's good that the guidance has been drawn up with support from Equalities and Human Rights and the Human Rights Commission. It's expected to give absolute clear instructions about keeping parents. The guidance has been drawn up with support from the Equalities and Human Rights Commission, and it's expected to give absolute clear instructions about keeping parents informed if their child wants to become socially known as a different gender or by a different name. I don't know how that works. I'm not comfortable about that myself, but so at least parents are going to be informed. But I say take this nonsense out of schools completely. If a child wants to use a different name, well, if a child wants to change genders in school, well, I mean, are we not just confusing children? Nobody can legally change the gender until 18 years old in the UK. So why are schools able to carry on with this nonsense? It's odd. So if children cannot legally change their gender, then they shouldn't really be doing this in schools. They don't have any legal right to it. What a load of crap. So, enough of our children have been butchered. Enough of our children have been experimented on with experimental drugs. And enough of our children have been indoctrinated. I'm not really sure that this guidance is going to satisfy me, at least. And the guidance actually also advises which changing rooms can be used by trans pupils. That means biologically born males can use, use girls' changing rooms again. Use the toilets. No, this is not what we want. It's not the guidance that I had anticipated. So I think this guidance really needs to be looked at, and it needs to specify that children, can't really change genders. Potentially, I don't know. Right? Okay. So if you think biologically born boys shouldn't be in very young girls' changing rooms, perhaps it's time you spoke up. Because the problem at the moment is if these poor little girls, these vulnerable girls, complain about boys, sorry, I mean biologically born males, in their toilets, okay, it's the girls who've been told they're wrong. They've been told they are in the wrong. They're transphobic. Something is wrong with them, and this isn't how it should be. That's no. You've got a biologically born boy going in their toilets. It's not right. They should be allowed to question it. Of course they should, because they shouldn't be in there. There's no legal right for them to be in there. It's strange. So it's not right that biologically born. It's not right that biologically born boys, however they identify, be allowed to access girls' private spaces in schools. There's a reason why girls have got their own spaces. Perhaps this guidance needs updating further. Well, there's no perhaps about it. It's not going to satisfy us gender critical people. Okay, if you're going to allow biological boys in the girls' changing room. So I don't know whether this guidance is going to satisfy my needs and other people's needs. Right. Okay. Well, the competition ended for the book. Okay, but my book, Box Steel, by me, Alex Bloodfire, is still available on Amazon. So if you want to buy get yourself a copy. Want to read a copy? Help me out. That would be appreciated. But I just thought I'd mention it. One last thing before we go, because I'm conscious of the time. I've only got 5 minutes left, but I'll read this out. So it's really it's really continuing from that, really, and it's so we've got Rebecca Bull. Okay, I'm just gonna fold my notes. Rebecca Bull, a workplace discrimination lawyer and co-founder of Sex Matters Campaigns Group, said that it seems very likely that without clearer government guidance on that guidance, parents will continue to be kept in the dark about children who tell their teachers they're socially transitioning. So we do need that guidance, although that guidance, at least the guidance will tell parents. But I mean, I don't know whether I'll be satisfied that guidance is enough. But we do need it. We need that guidance as soon as possible. We don't need it in a year's time. We need it now, really. So, she said we've had teachers get in touch with us saying in some schools this is continuing to happen even now. Well, we know it is. We know that children are being transitioned behind their parents' back. I don't know. I don't know why teachers even want to do this, or why they even think they've got a right to do this. So she said that children have been transitioned socially without parental consent, and in some cases, teachers raising safeguarding concerns about that, and the schools saying that they won't inform parents. Yeah, I mean so they're raising concerns about that the teachers can't tell parents. And she went on to say, I think they've got an incorrect understanding of their positions and an incorrect understanding that socially transitioned children is actually setting them onto a medical pathway and they are not qualified. And that's absolutely right. This social, what they're doing to children in schools, this social thing that they're doing to children in schools, they are setting children on the medical pathway, and teachers aren't qualified to be doing this. So, I mean, I'm sure that, the teaching profession ought to step in and do something about it. So Tanya Carter, a spokesman for Safe School Alliance, said that one of the main issues at the moment is that schools are still socially transitioning children behind parents' backs. As I say, we know that. This is what's going on. We've got mixed sex toilets and mixed sex changing rooms. Schools should have an understanding of safeguarding, but we are dealing with some schools that they are using off-the-shelf material from external groups, and there needs to be clear instructions from government. That needs to stop now. And it's right. It's the government that need to be controlling our schools, not lobby groups like Stonewall and Mermaids and the other ones that are out there. They need to stop. They need to stop them doing that. We don't want lobby groups going into our schools, indoctrinating our vulnerable children with rubbish. And that's it. We need a government to be controlling our schools. So yeah, that's it. Well, I haven't really got time for anything else. The hour's nearly up, so I'm going to call it a night. Thank you, Amy, for joining me, and all the rest of the people that came in and out the channel. And yeah, I mean, if have a great evening, everybody. And yeah, okay. Yeah, and thank you for joining me, Amy. Yep, have a good one. And I will be here on Saturday. I might talk about women's sports, gender ideology, usual old stuff. But please, yeah, join me, and I will see you hopefully on Saturday.